Last time I did a tier list video, it was of the Star Wars franchise films and movies, and I decided it would be a good idea to follow it up with the video games as a sequel. I did not realize what I got myself into. What is up, everybody? Welcome back to the channel. Thank you so much for clicking on and watching it. My name is Murpho, and if you can, please like, share, and subscribe to both this video and to the channel. I would very much appreciate it. We are back with another tier list video, and I am doing my second Star Wars tier list. As I mentioned at the top, I did the Star Wars movies and shows in my last one. A card will be showing up. I always forget where it goes, right up there. So be sure to give it a look over on that corner when you get a chance, maybe after this, who knows. But this one is a sequel of the Star Wars video games. Now, as I've mentioned before, Star Wars is very near and dear to my heart. I love the franchise so very much. So much of my time has been invested, not just in the movies and the shows, but as we're going to get into it today, the video games that I've been playing. I have been playing video games since as long as I can remember, and I've been playing Star Wars video games since the 1990s. So I've got about two and a half decades, yeah, that math checks out, of Star Wars video game playing experience. Now, I wanted this to be one of the most comprehensive, if not the most comprehensive tier list of Star Wars video games out there. So this is going to be the most daunting list that I've ever done before and that I may ever do ever. 52 total Star Wars games will be tiered here. I'm going to group some of them into their series, but I will put the games images up there as well. Some of these games I have not played, a fair amount of these games I have not played, but we will be tiering them based on reputation, and I will be tiering them the ones that I have been playing, speaking more about those. Some of the ones that I haven't played, we're going to tier, go through them probably a little quicker while mentioning the pros and cons based on their reputation and reception. Now, if any of these games that I haven't played, you have, and you have a different feeling about it or tier list or whatever, please get in the comments and let me know what your thoughts are and where you fear it should be tiered. Please also, for the games that I have played, do that too. This is meant to open up a dialogue. Same for any games that I may have left out. I've left out a few of the earlier games on very, very early gen consoles, such as like the Famicom, stuff like that. And I've also left out a bunch of mobile games and a couple of the lesser known games that I maybe haven't played and haven't had a huge reputation with the Star Wars saga. But again, if I let them out and you feel bad or upset or disappointed, I should say, that it hasn't been included, please go down into the comments and let me know what the game is. Tell me about it. Tell me why you think it's awesome or bad and where you would have tiered it. I loved reading people's opinions in the comments, and I will let you know that I've read them by giving you a nice little thumbs up. So please, it's a discourse. Let me know. We're all just meant to enjoy and have fun with Star Wars and enjoy these things and have a discussion on our thoughts and opinions, and we can respect each other's differing opinions. All right, I'm done with the talking. Let's start tiering and go. All right, so here we are in the list. As you can see, I've got my custom set up right over here, and we've got a ton of games. These are not all the games that are being tiered. I don't want you to just be like, wait, you said there were 52 and it stops at Phantom Menace. No, don't worry. I have 3 layers of games, Star Wars games, up here. 3 levels that we're gonna go through. Let's go ahead. Let's get right straight to it. We're starting with the original Star Wars arcade table game, or arcade cabinet game. This one I am going to put up right away. We're starting off in the S tier. This is one of the first Star Wars games to ever release. It's got a great reputation. If you have ever seen the game, for those who don't know, the game where all the lights are going all over the place, bright neon, very 80s, but Star Wars themed lights. That's what this game is. It is one of the games that started it all. And really, even though I haven't played it that much, if at all, I know the reputation that it has. If I did play it, it was when I was really little as a kid in the 90s in the arcades. All I know is everybody who I see talk about this game has nothing but praise for it. It is the first great Star Wars game that ever came out, and so it belongs in the S tier, hands down, in my opinion. Then we're going to move on to the Super Star Wars series. We got 3 of them here. We've got Super Star Wars, Super Empire Strikes Back, and Super Return of the Jedi. These were all on the Super Nintendo system, thus the Super name, Adoy. And they're all going to go into, I'm going to put them all in A tier, actually. They all were received very well. These were games that I did not get to play, unfortunately, because I was a Sega Genesis player, but I heard that they were all, everything that I hear from them is that they're all solid. They're all up there with the top tier, upper echelon of Star Wars games. And that they're basically fun little, they're 2D side-scrolling games, lots of fun, get to play as all the main characters from the, I don't know if you get to play as all the main characters, I know you, for a fact, you get to play as Luke pretty much the whole thing, but all I've heard is nothing but positive things from this game, so I wanted to pay respect for it and toss it up into the A tier. Now, we went from some good games to a bad game. Rebel Assault. I've seen the visuals of this game. It's an on-rails shooter, basically, where you're in the cockpit of an X-Wing. You're an X-Wing pilot known as Rookie 1. And you basically play through scenes of the Star Wars universe. The visuals are cool for the time. The cutscenes were really cool for the time. But the gameplay is just bad. It is not fun. It is very difficult. It is impossible to play without a joystick, which, you know, back in the day, that was a big thing with PC games and with anything where you were in a cockpit of any type, you needed to be on a joystick. But even on a joystick, the controls were very challenging, and the gameplay and the story just were not that great. I'm actually putting Rebel Assault, the original, down into F tier. First F tier video game. Now, its sequel, Rebel Assault 2, though, the gameplay was a little bit better. It was more manageable. It wasn't as difficult to move around. Because they made it a little easier to maneuver while you were on rails. You had to avoid obstacles in these games, specifically in Rebel Assault 1, and that became maddening because you had to aim and move with the same buttons, which was just annoying as heck. With Rebel Assault 2, they had pretty much just as interesting a story. It was a more interesting story because it wasn't anchored and just, hey, this is this character in these moments from the movies. It had its own independent story, kind of separate from the films, and the visuals were better. It wasn't a great game, but it was still fun for the nostalgia. The gameplay was upgraded. It was a better story, and so I'm actually moving it up from its original game, 2 tiers, up in a D tier. Was it a great Star Wars game? No. Was it a really good Star Wars game? Not really, but if you were a Star Wars fan, you would get some enjoyment out of it, so I feel like it goes into the D tier. Now, we go from the on-rail shooters of Rebel Assault to the flight sim games of the X-Wing TIE Fighter series. Now, I am going to tier all 4 games in the series here, including X-Wing vs. TIE Fighter and X-Wing Alliance. They're actually right underneath those images there for X-Wing and TIE Fighter. Now, the series as a whole, I am going to put all games in the X-Wing TIE Fighter series in S tier, mainly because of how great TIE Fighter was and how the series was revolutionary, not just for Star Wars games, but these games also revolutionized the flight sim games, the flight combat type games. These games were considered not just some of the best Star Wars games of all time, but some of the best games in the genre as a whole. It had some really solid stories. TIE Fighter was the first game where you actually, was one of the first Star Wars games, not the first Star Wars game, where you actually played as the enemy, as the Empire, and you got to see the manipulations and the way that the Empire thought during the conflict, during the galactic civil war of the original trilogy, plus the combat. Again, one of the best flight sim games and feeling flight sim games you can ever play. So there are a few Star Wars games from the 90s and the 80s that I would recommend that you would play, and anything that's in the S tier, like the arcade game and like the X-Wing TIE Fighter games, I would recommend you guys go back and play. Even though I never got a chance to play it, I do one day want to play the X-Wing TIE Fighter series. I just because I want to experience it, but I need to get a joystick. I toyed with it a little bit once with a mouse, and I need to play it. I need to play with a joystick. Now we're moving on to Dark Forces. Dark Forces is the first of the Dark Forces Jedi Knight series that came out. It features Kyle Katarn, one of my favorite Star Wars universe characters, and it was a really fun game. I'm gonna put Dark Forces up into the A tier. I really enjoyed it. I've played this one. I've beaten it. Really wasn't much as far as the revolutionary cutscenes, but it was pretty much Star Wars meets Doom. If you've played the original Doom games, or you've seen what the original Doom games or Wolfenstein games look like, those old id kind of shooters, that is pretty much what Dark Forces is, but it's set in Star Wars. And you are basically a rebel soldier, Kyle Katarn, who with his Jan Orso, which is funny, not to be confused with Jyn Erso of Rogue One, were a tandem that were basically just trying to stop the Empire. I can't remember the full main story of Dark Forces, but I do know that the first mission starts off with you, which is why this isn't canon anymore. You are the one who steals the Death Star plans, which is maybe why Jyn Erso was taken from Jan Orso of these games. But yeah, pretty much it's the same great shooter combat of the original id kind of shooters, those kind of hallway shoot FPS games in PC's heyday in the 90s. And so it's a lot of fun. It's an interesting story, even though I don't remember much of it, as I say. Yeah, it was a lot of fun, and it spawned a great franchise as a whole. So I think it goes into the A tier. Shadows of the Empire. Shadows of the Empire for the N64 is one of the first Star Wars games I ever played, and I fell in love with it. I don't know if I'm going to put it up into S tier. I kind of want to, but I'm not sure. I think I'm going to put it up in S tier. I love Shadows of the Empire. It could be argued to be an A tier, but I love Dash Rendar. I loved his ship. I loved his companion in the game. The Battle of Hoth level is one of the most iconic levels in video games, in my opinion, not just in Star Wars games. The Wampas that you had to fight in that game, the battle on Ord Mantell with IG-88, the interesting space battles that you had to take in the Outrider. That was a ship. We remembered it. The introduction of Prince Zizor, and an interesting kind of expanding story. Shadows of the Empire, by the way, took place in between episodes. Starts off at pretty much at the Battle of Hoth in Empire Strikes Back, and then finishes around just before Return of the Jedi. So you basically get to do see what's going on in the Empire. I can't remember, but Prince Zizor was like this, I believe it was this underworld kind of third party working with and against the Empire. So you're tasked with taking him out because he's also causing problems for the rebellion. You interact with Luke Skywalker. I remember the great swoop bike level on Tatooine. While the story is fun, and I would need a refresher to go through it, I remember the story being good. It was a little convoluted, but I will say that the gameplay and the characters are some of the most memorable moments. And you know what? I'm thinking of it. I want to keep it up here. I'm going to keep it in S tier. I reserve the right at any point, though, to move it back down to A tier. I'm very much on the fence. If I could, I would leave Shadows of the Empire here, but I'm going to leave it up in S tier. It's one of my favorite Star Wars games of all time. You might feel differently. You might feel it belongs in A tier, but I feel like it belongs in S tier. Now, Star Wars Dark Forces 2 Jedi Knight. This is the sequel to Dark Forces. Features Kyle Katarn. It's when Kyle Katarn first gets a lightsaber, introduces lightsaber combat into the Jedi Knight series. You find out that Kyle Katarn's, I believe it was his father. I don't know if it was his father was a Jedi, or he basically gets Jedi powers from the Valley of the Force. But the Valley of the Force, for those who don't know, is basically this location in the old canon in Legends where basically it was the end of the civil war between the Jedi and the Sith from like 1,000 years ago, which led to the rule of two for the Sith. Basically, the Sith were losing the war, so in a last-ditch effort, they released what was known as basically like a thought bomb, where basically all of these powerful Sith users basically used their minds to create and willed the Force into basically like kind of like a Force explosion that killed and then entrapped the Force powers of all the Jedi and the Sith within the vicinity, and it basically created this massive Force well, basically a fountain of youth, except instead of becoming youthful forever, you became incredibly powerful in the Force if you stepped into it. And that's what Jedi Knight Dark Forces 2, or Jedi Knight Star Wars Dark Forces 2 Jedi Knight was based on. There was this dark side user, I cannot for the life of me remember his name, and his followers, they were looking for the Valley of the Force. Kyle Katarn had to hunt them down. He finds the Valley of the Force, becomes a Jedi by stepping into it, and eventually one by one kills all of them, confronts them. Kyle's father passes away, I believe, and is killed by the villain in this one. It wasn't anything. The story is tough for me to remember, but I remember it being very good. The gameplay combat was just as good as Dark Forces. I'm gonna put it up on up here with the original. It also featured some of the cinematic, those 90s, I believe it's like FMV style, like video cutscenes with actual actors. So we had somebody actually playing as Kyle Katarn. They were kind of cheesy, but they were the fun kind of cheesy. I really enjoyed it, so that's gonna go in the A tier for me. Now we're gonna go into one of the worst Star Wars games ever created, Star Wars Masters of the Teräs Käsi. This was an attempt at a Star Wars fighting game. Sounds like a good idea, right? I honestly would love them to try and take a crack at a Star Wars fighting game again in the current day and age, but this one did not work at all. The controls were not good. It was clunky. It looked like a really terrible bad ripoff of Tekken, and as such, it goes in the F tier. It lives in infamy, so much so that those of you who hear the name of this game and have ever watched Solo, a Star Wars story, and caught the joke, yeah, in that movie, Kira mentions as a joke when she takes down that guy on Kessel so quickly that she basically became a master of Teräs Käsi. It was literally a joke and a pun to reference that game. And maybe someday we'll get a reboot of a new Masters of Teräs Käsi, but maybe it'll actually be a good game. We'll see. Next up is Mysteries of the Sith, which is basically a side story in the Dark Forces universe with Mara Jade. For those who don't know Mara Jade, she is one of the most popular Legends characters in Star Wars. She was essentially she was an agent of the Emperor. Basically like the Emperor's favorite kind of like assassin undercover agent. She was essentially kind of what like the Inquisitors kind of became. Except Mara, eventually, she wasn't like tortured into following the dark side. She just came up in the Empire. She eventually gains a conscience. She breaks from the Empire. I believe she's sent to assassinate or kill Luke. And I could be wrong. Correct me if I'm wrong. Feel free to. But instead of killing Luke, she actually meets Luke, talks with Luke. Luke convinces her to turn away from the Empire, join the light side of the Force, and eventually she falls in love with Luke after, I believe it's after Return of the Jedi. She reconnects with Luke, and they fall in love, and she actually becomes Luke's wife, and Luke and Mara Jade eventually have a child named Ben Skywalker, which is part of the inspiration for the name Ben Solo for Kylo Ren. Now, as for the game itself, it's pretty much Jedi Knight, but with a story of Mara Jade, and as far as I remember, it doesn't have the cool cutscenes. The story is very basic. So while it's still a good game, I still enjoyed playing it. The polish quality, I feel like, because it was kind of an offshoot game and not a full-fledged sequel to the series, wasn't as high as the rest of the series. This is probably the low point of the entire Star Wars Jedi Knight and Dark Forces series to me, but B tier is still a really good game. I still really enjoyed it. I would honestly recommend the entire Dark Forces and Jedi Knight series to anybody who would want to play it. Next up is the Star Wars Trilogy arcade game. Now, this might be a controversial take for a lot of Star Wars fans, but I got to tell you all a story as to why I'm going to put it where I'm going to put it. I've been going on vacation to Walt Disney World since I was a little kid. And each resort, pretty much each resort I stayed at when I was growing up in Disney World had an arcade. And the main feature of that arcade, one of the most popular games there, was Star Wars Trilogy Arcade. I played that game like crazy. I was obsessed with getting everything down on it, beating it, completing it, trying to get the high scores. I never did. It got so bad. The Disney Cruise Line, its first couple ships, I went on a Disney cruise. The first 2 ships, I believe it's not there anymore, but they used to have an arcade. And again, the Star Wars arcade game, Trilogy arcade game, was one of the top games there. I was so obsessed with beating it and getting it right and playing it over and over again. I didn't realize what a credit card was or room charge was. I charged like $50. I believe it was like $50 worth of tokens on the Star Wars Trilogy arcade game. That was in like 99 or 2000, I think it was. It was 20 years ago. That's how much I love this game. As far as the gameplay goes, you're basically going through all the big moments of the Star Wars trilogy as Luke Skywalker. You do the trench run. It's an on-rail shooter. You do the trench run. You do the Battle of Hoth. You fight Boba Fett. There's a couple of moments where you have a lightsaber. You have Luke's lightsaber, and you have to fight Boba Fett. You have to fight Vader. You do the Battle of the Second Death Star. As a game, it's good. It's fun. Would I consider it the greatest game, Star Wars game out there? No. But for me, I loved it. I had so much fun with this game. I loved the gameplay. Even though it was on rails, it was challenging. It was fun. There were all the colors. The graphics at the time were great. I'm going to put this up in the S tier. Personally, I love this game, and I understand anybody who wants to put this game into the A, B, or C tier, but this just has a personal connection for me and personal memories to me to why it's got to go in the S tier for me. I spent so many hours on vacations on that game, and even today, when I go into old arcades, I look for this game, and I try to play this game. That's how much I love it. Anyway, moving on. Star Wars Rogue Squadron. This was one of my favorite games in the N64. I loved this game. This was probably the best Star Wars game on the N64. Better than Shadows of the Empire, better than Racer. I feel like the original Rogue Squadron game has to go up into S tier. Is it as good as TIE Fighter, X-Wing versus TIE Fighter? No, but I feel like the story was the graphics, I think, were better. I had fun playing it. I loved all the characters of the squadron, and I just personally was in love with this game. I really liked it. I loved the Corellia mission. It was challenging. It expanded the Star Wars universe and what Luke was up to during the Galactic Civil War to me. You got to learn more about Wedge. I fully enjoyed this game. There's nothing else I can say. All I can say are positives. That's going to go up into the S tier. And I know you guys are seeing this tier list right now, and it's very lopsided, but don't worry. When we get to the games in the next slide in the early 2000s, you're going to see that the quality of games in the 90s that I loved, in my teens, the quality of the games kind of went down for Star Wars, even though I still love a lot of them. And we're going to start with the first one, the Phantom Menace game. I really like Star Wars The Phantom Menace. This was a PlayStation 1 game. You basically pretty much play through as Obi-Wan Kenobi. I think there might be a few levels where you play as Qui-Gon on Tatooine, and a few levels where you play as Amidala. I have fun with it, but it was basically a top-down kind of action game. So the gameplay was a little clunky. Graphics, while nice, weren't the greatest. And you're pretty much just playing through Phantom Menace. It's okay. It's fine. It's fun. But would I like really recommend it to anybody? Not really. Like, it was okay. I don't think it was bad. I enjoyed my time with it. I had fun with it. I have fond memories playing it. But it also wasn't anything that really blew my mind or made me feel too great about it. I would never really want to go back and play it. Maybe for a little bit for nostalgia's sake, and then realize, I kind of changed my mind, but no. All right, on to group number 2. We start off with Star Wars Episode 1 Racer. I'm going to put this one in the A tier. I almost want to put it in the S tier. But I had a lot of... This game was so much fun and such a surprise as a racing game. It was just an absolute blast. I really want to put it up in an S tier. But I'm going to leave it in A. I just remember you got to play as all the different pod racers. All the different pod racing tracks were fun. It took basically what was the best part, and aside from Duel of the Fates, I feel like Duel of the Fates was better than the pod race, but one of the best, if not the best, moment from Phantom Menace, and made a game out of it, and made a great game out of it. It was a lot of fun. I had a blast with it. I know lots of people did. I think this is also one of my fiance's favorite Star Wars games. She's probably going to be upset with me that I didn't put it into S tier, but for me personally, it's an A tier game. Not exactly like super up there. A lot of people feel like Racer's Revenge was better. I think it was really great. I can't bring myself to put it up here in the S tier. Next up, Star Wars Jedi Power Battles. This game was meh. It wasn't really that great. You got to play as a bunch of different Jedi, which was cool. You got some actual combat, but story was very forgettable. Gameplay was glitchy. It wasn't too great. You could get some enjoyment out of it, but overall, I think it was an E tier. It wasn't an absolute failure, but it wasn't really an enjoyable game. You could maybe have some fun out of it, but I didn't really enjoy it too much. Next up, we're gonna do Jedi Starfighter and Star Wars Starfighter and Star Wars Jedi Starfighter. These are two other games that I feel very clunky. Not the best. Not really too enjoyable. When you compare them to the greatness that came before them of the X-Wing TIE Fighter series and Rogue Squadron, really a step down. I'm not going to really touch too much on it because I really haven't played much of these games, if I've played them at all. I've just seen the gameplay. I've heard the reputation. They don't play well very much. Kind of forgettable. They're the forgettable fighter games, pretty much, of Star Wars. So down into E tier they go. Next up, Super Bombad Racing. Yes, there was a time where Star Wars decided to make a kart game because Mario Kart became a thing and blew up and was incredibly popular. This game was okay. Run-of-the-mill standard kart game. Nothing really too wrong with it. Nothing too bad. Was it a good game? Not really. I don't think so. I'm honestly going to put it down at a D tier. It was a fun game. Kinda. But, like, there was really nothing about it that separated it from other kart games. Like, if you had a choice, I would say you had a much better time playing Mario Kart, playing Diddy Kong Racing, playing those kinds of kart games than playing Super Bombad Racing. Not really worth your time. There are enough redeeming qualities where if you're a Star Wars fan, you want to play a kart game, sure. I think you'll have a good time, but otherwise not super memorable. Now I'm going to go on to Star Wars Rogue Leader and Rebel Strike, the other Rogue Squadron games. Now, I'm not going to put them up in the S tier. I never played these games because they didn't have a GameCube, but one of my best friends had them. He loved them almost as much, if not as much, as Rogue Squadron. And I've seen gameplay. I've seen him play them. They look like great, amazing games. But because I haven't personally played them, and because I don't think, from what I've seen of them, they can hold up quite to Rogue Squadron, the original. To me, I feel like they belong at A instead of S. I know there's a lot of people who love every single game in the Rogue Squadron type series who are going to tell me, no, Murpho, these are S tier. What is wrong with you? That's perfectly fine. I acknowledge the fact that a lot of people are going to have these games in the S tier, but for me personally, I acknowledge how good they are, but I don't feel like, unlike X-Wing versus TIE Fighter, where they were some of the greatest games ever to come out, I don't think I can say that exactly about Rogue Leader and Rebel Strike to where I can put them in an S tier. So into A tier, they will go. Star Wars Obi-Wan. F tier. Not a good game. Not enjoyable. Completely forgettable. Even on the box, it's an Xbox game. I understand the green tint. But like, Obi-Wan has a blue lightsaber. Why is it all green? They can't even get the box art right. I don't really want to spend too much more time about Star Wars Obi-Wan. It just was not a fun game. Not enjoyable, really. It came across to me as like kind of like Phantom Menace and Jedi Power Battles, but worse. I wouldn't recommend you play it. Next up, Star Wars Racer Revenge. This one didn't get as much attention as the regular Racer because I think a lot of people maybe saw it as a cash grab at the time, because this was with Episode 2 Anakin. Like, Anakin's basically leaves that, like, goes to continue to race while being a Jedi, but I heard that it actually was as good, if not better, and played better than the original Racer. So based on reputation and based on how good Racer is, I'm going to put Racer Revenge up in the A tier. I feel like it was a very good game. Or I feel like based on the reputation of people saying it was a very good game, and based on the reputation of a regular Racer, I feel like it belongs up there with the original. Now, Star Wars Jedi Knight 2, Jedi Outcast. This game is my favorite Star Wars game of all time. I love this game. I love this game with a burning passion. This game like changed my life. This game introduced me to online video games. I first played this game in a local cyber cafe with my friends, and I enjoyed the regular multiplayer so much. And one of my best friends told me that it was a fun game, that the story was good. Like, this is the first game in the Dark Forces series that I played, that I bought it. Played the story. Loved the story with Kyle Katarn. The gameplay was so much better than Dark Forces and Jedi Knight. It was an evolution of the Jedi Knight gameplay and made it even better. The story was great. Kyle Katarn thinks that he's lost Jan. He flirts potentially with falling to the dark side over it. Dasan, very unique dark side user with his own apprentice, Tavian. They basically trick Kyle Katarn into cutting himself off from the Force, because I believe you can also cut off your connection to the Force by going to the Valley of the Jedi. So they fake killing Jan and capture instead to drive Kyle into a mental place to where he will cut off his connection to the Force by going to the Valley of the Jedi, so they can find the Valley of the Jedi and take all of their disciples and turn them into Force acolytes, basically, and have an army of Force users. And then when Kyle realizes he's been duped, he has to go back to the Valley of the Jedi, reconnect with the Force, and make things right, undo what he's done, take down Dasan and his Sith army, and stop an invasion on Luke's new Jedi temple. Great cameos by Luke Skywalker. Dasan, I think, was a great villain. Kyle Katarn, his journey was amazing, and this is just a single player. Then I went into multiplayer, and I found, beyond the regular lightsaber fighting and shooting that you could do dueling. And I discovered that there were lobbies and a community in this game that allowed people to just hang out, chat. It was literally like the servers where you would play the game, the maps were the lobby, where you would hang out, talk, play games, people would make maps that would have jumping puzzles in them that you guys would compete with. They would have dueling arenas, because you can challenge people to one-on-one duels where no one can interfere, and you can duel with each other. The lightsaber combat had 3 different forms, fast, medium, and strong style, and each had counters and weaknesses. They each had their own combos, different combos from different forms, overpowered or countered others. Each form had its own special type of attack, and each form had its own distance for hitting their target. And so there became this dueling community that I became a part of with this awesome, amazing clan. It was the first clan I ever joined. So between the community that would make maps and skins and lightsaber hilts and the dueling aspect and mastering that, plus just having fun and goofing around in the multiplayer, this is to me, a lot of people say Knights of the Republic was the best Star Wars game ever made. I think because of its online community, this goes into S tier. Star Wars Jedi Knight 2 Jedi Outcast, to me, is the best Star Wars game ever made, and had the best lightsaber combat since possibly Fallen Order. Might be the one game that's maybe done it better. Not even Force Unleashed has done it better. At Force Unleashed, as we'll get to later, was the closest until Fallen Order that ever came to Force use in the Star Wars game as well, because you had a wider range of Force powers and abilities you could use too. But I'm going to move on from gushing about Jedi Outcast, and I'm going to move on to the next game, which is the Clone Wars game. I'm moving this to F tier. And this is a personal decision. Some people might enjoy Star Wars The Clone Wars, but to me, I didn't like it. It was pretty much entirely vehicle combat, but it wasn't fun vehicle combat. I remember it being incredibly clunky and difficult and not being tough at all. I remember dying multiple times on Geonosis and getting fed up with the game and stopping. And this game came with my Xbox. And I remember, and you guys know me, I'm a huge Star Wars fan. I'll give anything a chance. I actually had to stop playing this game. Drove me nuts. Couldn't keep playing it, so I'm putting it down in an F tier. Star Wars Bounty Hunter. This one I'm going to put in a B tier. Some people would put it in an A tier, but it was a fun game, fun shooter game. I never played it, but my brother did, and I watched him play it. Interesting story. Tells a story about how Jango Fett got recruited by Count Dooku and by Palpatine, aka Darth Tyrannus and Darth Sidious, to become the model of the clone army. It basically came in through a bounty hunter challenge. You got other bounty hunters at the time put into it. So, and the gameplay looked fun. So it's a fun game. Nothing really incredible to write home about, but the gameplay's good. The story's good. It would be fun to go back and play it. So solid B tier. Star Wars Galaxies is a game that I never played. I hear that it had a great community, and they really made Jedi, at least the start, feel like a really rare thing, which fits considering this took place before Episode 4. I really never played it because this was when I was late high school, early college. I was a poor kid. I was a poor college / late high school kid. I didn't really want to, and I was against monthly payments for MMOs, so I never really played it. From what I heard, it was solid. Nothing great. Middle of the road type MMORPG, but had a strong community. I'm leaning towards C tier for this one. It was a fun game. It had a strong community. I never played it though, so I can't speak to it. But it also came out in the era of EverQuest 2, and it eventually had to compete with World of Warcraft and Guild Wars, and a lot of people considered all those games better than Galaxies. So I feel like Galaxies, for a Star Wars fan, it was a fun game. If it didn't have a monthly fee, or if I had the money to pay for it, I probably would have played it and had a lot of fun with it. But just compared to the MMOs of the time, it was just average from everything I've heard. So I'm going to stick it in C tier. Star Wars Knights of the Republic. F tier. No, I'm just kidding. This is the greatest. This is, like I said, most people consider this the greatest Star Wars game of all time, and thus it belongs in the S tier. There's a reason why they've remade this game and made it available on so many different platforms after it came out. The one-of-a-kind story, everything I'm going to tell you, you've probably already heard already. The story of Revan, incredible. The story of the introduction of the Starforge, locations like Terrace, the introduction of the Rakata, the old Jedi Order, which was based on Dantooine, the characters of Bastila Shan, IG-88, so many memorable characters in this game. Darth Malak, probably the best Star Wars villain out there next to the movie villains. It's just incredible. A memorable, all-time RPG. This is the RPG that made BioWare what it is. And I knew BioWare before this game because I played Neverwinter Nights. But this is the game that broke BioWare out into the mainstream, made them the household studio name that they were up until they ruined the ending of Mass Effect 3 and then bombed Mass Effect 4. Here's hoping that Dragon Age brings them back to glory. But yeah, I could talk more about the game, but you guys all know about how good the gameplay is, how good the story is, how good the characters are, how many memorable moments there were, the twist midway through the game. S tier. Star Wars Jedi Jedi Academy. This was a game that I had high hopes for. The story was okay. You didn't play as Kyle Katarn. You played as a student that you would select who trained under Kyle Katarn at the Jedi Academy. You saw the return of Tavion, who was the secondary boss from the previous game of Survive. She became the master, and this was cool in that it involved older Sith Lords. It involved, I think it was Marka Ragnos, not Naga Sadal, but Marka Ragnos, one of the old Legends Sith Lords, like some of the first Sith Lords. You went to Korriban with the big Sith temples at the end. Fun game. I enjoyed it, though to me, it didn't resonate with me as much as Jedi Outcast. The online community, the lightsaber combat, they tried to introduce using two lightsabers at once and dual lightsabers, but it ended up actually imbalancing the system to an extent, and it made the dueling system not as good in online multiplayer. And so I never really got fully into the community. My clan actually went into this game fully ready to move over, and we ended up falling apart because the game didn't meet what we were hoping it would be, and we ended up both like splitting as a clan into World of Warcraft and Guild Wars 2. I did, however, eventually stick with Jedi Knight Jedi Academy and found a really great mod in the Movie Battles 2 mod. I would highly recommend, if you're a Star Wars fan, pick up Jedi Knight Jedi Academy and see if the Movie Battles 2 mod is still playing. Team-based, team-oriented, objective-based gameplay with different classes. You had a soldier class for like battle droids, an advanced soldier class for super battle droids or ARC troopers. You had the Jedi, you had like assassin type classes, you had droidekas, and various different types of maps, and there was a vibrant community about it. And the lightsaber combat for Jedi and Sith was actually as good, if not better, than in Jedi Outcast. They actually introduced a blocking mechanic, which was not in Jedi Outcast, and like a block stamina bar, which is actually kind of similar to how things work in Battlefront 2's Heroes and Villains mode with the Jedi type characters and Sith characters in this one. So overall, I didn't say my rating in the tiers. A tier. Jedi Knight Jedi Academy, A tier. Really good game, fun game. The online multiplayer, I ended up joining a clan in this one and had a lot of fun with this. Not as much as Jedi Outcast, but still really good game. The original Star Wars Battlefront, A tier. Put it up in A tier. I was thinking about putting it in S tier, but you know what's gonna go in S tier. This was the original. It was until the sequel came out, the best shooter game, Star Wars shooter game ever. One of the best shooter games ever. Everything that it did, Battlefront 2 Plus, so I'm not gonna waste too much time talking about it. A lot of people just know that the reputation of Star Wars Battlefront, the hype, it lives up to the hype. It's really good. Play the original if you ever get a chance. I have fun with it. A tier. Star Wars Knights of the Republic 2, The Sith Lords. Now, time has oddly been very kind to this game. I remember when it came out, a lot of people saw it as a massive disappointment to the original Knights of the Republic, and I liked it. I really loved the villains in this game. Darth Nihilus and, Darth Nihilus, Darth Kreia, and I can't remember the other Sith Lord, which really sucks, but I remember his final scene, which was just poetically tragic, and he was basically holding himself together by the dark side of the Force. A very intimidating type of characters. Nihilus kind of was defeated anticlimactically, but Darth Treya was interesting. It was an interesting twist. Story got a little kind of confusing at the end to me, a little convoluted and weird, but it was a compelling story about how you're basically dealing with almost kind of like your character is kind of dealing with the fallout of what happened with Revan and what he did at the end of, and what happened at the end of the Mandalorian wars between the Jedi and the Mandalorians. Basically, with the Mandalorian wars, before Knights of the Republic happened, Mandalorians started running roughshod around the galaxy. Revan and Malak wanted to take a Jedi force to help the Republic to win the war. Jedi Council didn't support it because they felt like there were some ulterior motives or some darker presence behind it. Revan and Malak didn't want to listen. They had good intentions. They eventually turned to the dark side in order to defeat the Mandalorians, and then they invaded the galaxy. So the Jedi Council was right. This deals with the fallout of other Jedi, kind of, who were around Revan at the time of that incident. And your character is a Jedi. Continues the great gameplay. The storyline is intriguing. It's really interesting to see what happens after Knights of the Republic. You do get cameos from Carthonasi and Bastila IG-88 does return to your party. You do interact with more Mandalorians. And you can the cool thing about this game was you could convert everybody in your team to a Jedi, into a Jedi. It came about that they all ended up being Force sensitive, and so they could all become Jedi. And so you could turn pretty much your entire team except for IG-88 into Jedi, which was cool. Not as good as Knights of the Republic. I thought about putting it in B tier and being contrarian, but I think it belongs in A, and it looks like we may end up with some overlap here in the tiers. I might have to start covering up some things here in the A list. Moving on, and this might be the first case, Republic Commando. This is a game that I never played, but a lot of people say it's a really good game. One of the best single-player games in the Jedi, in the Star Wars saga. So I'm going to go ahead, I'm going to put it above KOTOR 2 there. I'm going to put it at the edge of the A tier right there, and I'm going to nudge it just a little bit. Just a little bit. So KOTOR 2 gets a little bit more love. Nudge KOTOR 2 a little bit more over there, so it's a little more centered. Not much really to speak of because I haven't played it, but I trust people who I trust have played the game and said it's really, really good. One of the best games they've ever played, so I'm gonna trust their judgment. A tier. Star Wars: The Clone Wars and the entire Clone Wars series. Now this is where we're gonna start covering some things up. They're a lot of fun. I will put them in the A tier. Because they're the perfect family-friendly game for Star Wars. Best way to get your kids involved in Star Wars if you want them to play a game. And this is even just fun to play with friends. I love the little Lego humor. I like that they introduced the voices later, and I'm going to have to move all of these games up above. I really thoroughly loved these games. I really enjoyed them. And there's really not much else to say. Like, if you haven't played the Lego Star Wars games, I highly recommend you play them. They're coming out with the new Skywalker saga for all 6 games. But as you can see, we've got the regular main Lego Star Wars, The Complete Saga, Lego Star Wars Through the Clone Wars, and then The Force Awakens. All solid games. I would recommend them. They go into A tier for me. Enough said. Ooh, I have this here twice. That is gone now. Don't know how that happened. Anyway, Episode 3, Revenge of the Sith. I'm going to put this one. This may be controversial, because people don't seem to be as high on this one. But I'm putting it in B tier. I actually really liked the Episode 3 Revenge of the Sith game. It came around the same time as that, if anybody is a Lord of the Rings fan, that Return of the King game. And I really enjoyed this. The gameplay was okay. It was fine. It was fun. But what I really liked about this game is it added even more context to Episode 3. And it had maybe one of my favorite boss fights in video games when Anakin fights Mace Windu, because in this game he doesn't just cut off Mace Windu's arm and then Windu goes all electricity out the window. Anakin actually blocks the lightsaber, which I thought personally, when I watched Revenge of the Sith, I was like, Anakin's torn, why wouldn't he just stop the lightsaber blade and try to talk sense into Mace Windu? Or maybe block the lightsaber blade, and then Palpatine does his shocky with the finger tickle fingers. And Episode 3, the video game, actually plays out that scenario. And basically, they have a lightsaber duel, Mace Windu and Anakin Skywalker. And I know they couldn't have fit this into the film, but like a truncated version of this would have been cool. And I thought that was one of the coolest things, because you actually see Instead of Anakin being like, no, oh crap, I cut up his arm. Oh, I guess I'm a Sith Lord now. You see him slowly, mentally, and emotionally descend into the dark side through his fight with Windu. He tries to reason with Windu. Windu doesn't want to hear it, ignores him, runs him down, insults him, and tries to convince him that Palpatine needs to die. And you see the anger and the hostility and the resentment for the Jedi build up in Anakin, which leads to him eventually killing Windu himself, which I thought was a lot more powerful than just, oh, I cut off his arm. I didn't realize it. It was a split-second decision when I probably, if I really was thinking straight, could have just stopped the lightsaber and then Palpatine kills him. So I think for that fight alone and the fact that the rest of the game is pretty solid, B tier. B tier. Star Wars Battlefront 2, the best shooter game. This is right up there with me. This is probably number 3 on my top 3 of all of favorite / best Star Wars games of all time. Right there with Jedi Outcast and Knights of the Republic. The shooting gameplay, the type of characters you can play as Jedi. You can play as Ki-Adi-Mundi. That's something I want to see the new Battlefront series do. Use Jedi from the Clone Wars animated show, from the background of the films. Use those kinds of heroes and villains. Please. Battlefront 2 did it and it was awesome. Plus, Battlefront 2 had the best ship-to-ship combat, better than Rogue Squadron, the best ship-to-ship combat since the X-Wing series in their capital ship battles, which was awesome. And it also merged capital ship battles with ground battles. You would fly out of your hangar, fight starfighters, and then the goal would be to break down the exterior to where you could enter the capital ship and then blow up the interior. Something to an extent that I believe, what is it, the siege type, not the siege gameplay. I can't remember the game mode in Battlefront 2, but where you would fight on the ground and fight in the capital ship in the current Battlefront 2, but that doesn't have the fighter gameplay in there. Battlefront 2 was able to pull it off. Enough said, pretty much by me. S tier for Battlefront 2. Star Wars Empire War. Really cool, really fun, honestly. RTS on Star Wars. I'm putting it in B tier because I don't think it was good enough to be an A tier or S tier, but I still really enjoyed Empire at War. The really cool thing about it is you could have maps where, like with Battlefront 2, it was kind of like, it's kind of similar to Battlefront 2's current mode, except in reverse. With Empire at War, you would go to a planet on the galaxy, like you would play on the galaxy side, you would go to a planet, you would fight a space battle. If you won the space battle, you would then have to invade the planet and commit a ground real-time strategy battle. It did lead to incredibly long game sessions that did kind of feel like they dragged out, but it was realistic to the Star Wars franchise, and the actual gameplay of the battles was actually really good. I thoroughly enjoyed it. So it goes to a B tier for me. Star Wars The Force Unleashed. This is probably going to be controversial. I really like it. The cutscenes were cool. The story was cool. I'm gonna put it... I'm torn right now between B and A tier. So here's what I'm going to do. I'm going to put it in B tier for now. As we talk about it, I'm going to move this up. Force Unleashed. This may be a little bit of personal bias, but it probably is. But I was hoping this was going to be the successor to Jedi Outcast. And really what it was Jedi Outcast on steroids, which was fun. I enjoyed the story of a Vader apprentice, but like the fact that he was so powerful, so overpowered, it didn't really fit to me mentally with the canon of the games. You eventually fight and kick Vader's ass, and Vader has to get saved by the Emperor, which kind of makes Vader look weak. And you pull down a Star Destroyer. So while this game is a lot of fun, a blast, I love messing around with all the Force powers and the lightsaber combat. It's fun, but the story is just so weird compared to the rest of Star Wars, and I feel like he's so overpowered and overuses the Force too much. And I feel like it hurts Vader in the end. with the finish the way that it did. I still had fun with it though. It's still a B tier game. I'm not like giving it a D or an E. I still had fun with it. I just don't think it was great enough to be in the A or the S tier. Force Unleashed 2. I did not play this game. I heard a lot of people say it was not an enjoyable game. It was not as good as Force Unleashed 2. Yeah, you got to have some fun gameplay, same fun gameplay, but the story was even worse. You were a clone of Starkiller. So I'm going to put this one down into D tier. If I did not, again, I did not play this game, and I'm basing it off of the opinions of people who I know and I respect. So if you have a differing opinion, please put it in a comment. Let me know. I would love to hear what you feel are the stronger positives of this game. It still seemed like it was a fun game to play, but the story was even worse, and they didn't really revolutionize things too much. So instead of it being C, kind of a little bit in the D tier there. Star Wars, The Old Republic. I really want to put this into A tier, but I feel like I can't justify that. I love Star Wars The Old Republic. If my clan or friends, so many of my friends jumped on to play this game at the start and then just did not, just fell off of it really quickly. If I had more friends stay on it, I probably would have played longer. Because I played through the whole Jedi Guardians storyline, and I wanted to do the storyline of every single game because I loved the Old Republic and Knights of the Old Republic 1 and 2 so much. But I'm going to put this ultimately in the B tier. I think it was better than Galaxies. And I love the aesthetic. I love the voice acting. I love the cutscenes in this game. I love the stories. But I think the biggest problem that happened with the Old Republic is the timing it came out was the wrong time. It came out right when people were starting to get tired of the kind of fetch quest system that EverQuest and World of Warcraft was modeled off of. People were looking for new, fresh things. Guild Wars 2 was getting prepped to come out with its dynamic events and not as much fetch questing and stuff like that, advanced graphics. And I ended up playing both games. But I feel like too much of it was, you're in this section of the map. You have to do everything in this section of the map tediously. Gather these materials, kill these things. Then you move on to the next part of the map, the next, and the next, and the next. And the major story stuff didn't fully, I feel like, hit until you got to the end of the area. Now, this is why I feel a lot of people got turned off to it. I still really enjoyed it, and I wouldn't mind if the storyline wasn't so long going back and playing it. I also heard that the endgame content, was desolate because a lot of people left after they finished the game. I still enjoy the game. I still wish people gave it more of a chance, and I really hope this doesn't cause the thought of a Star Wars MMO to be abandoned. I would love to see a new one. I'm glad that BioWare is still supporting it. Every once in a while, I think about loading this back up and playing another class. But it's a shame. It's a shame. It's a game that I really enjoyed. Belongs to B tier. I wish it had better success. Connect Star Wars. I made this joke the other way around, so why not? S tier. S tier. Greatest game of all time. This is why we still have Connect as a major platform today. Nah, just kidding. F tier. Known as arguably the worst Star Wars game of all time. The motion controls for Connect were not that great. Were not that responsive. This is from reading multiple reviews. I never personally played it because I didn't jump on the Connect bandwagon. I really didn't think motion controls were going to be a huge thing. I felt like it worked for the Wii, and that was because it was designed like that. I didn't think Connect or the PlayStation Eye was going to become a big deal. The only saving grace of Connect Star Wars is that it gave us that wonderful Jason Derulo remix on Han Solo. Star Wars Battlefront, the remake. This one I'm going to throw. People may want me to put it a little bit lower, but I'm actually going to put this in the C tier. I enjoyed Battlefront 1, the remake. I thought it was a fun shooter. I didn't mind the space combat. I had fun with it. My friends abandoned it really quick. I did see the shortcomings when you're comparing it to Battlefront 2. So, meh game. That's all I'm going to say about it. Galaxy of Heroes, the mobile game. for Star Wars, which started in 2015, still going today. I've dabbled in this game. If I wasn't such a big player of the Dragon Ball Z Dokkan Battle game for global, which I absolutely love, I played living hell out of that game, I would play Galaxy of Heroes more. It's a very enjoyable mobile game. I'm going to put it into the A tier, honestly. I was thinking of B tier, but I'm actually going to put it up in A, so I got to move this up. I'm going to talk about it. It's very fun. It's a gacha game, so you collect all different types of characters from all over the Star Wars saga, from Legends to New EU to all the movies to all the shows. Fun, team-based. You got to be careful if you don't to not fall into that money pit of spending money to get characters. But fun turn-based gameplay. The only reason why I like to play Dokkan Battle over Galaxies of Heroes is possibly time investment. I like that aesthetic a little bit more, and I like that gameplay a little bit more, but I still really like the turn-based combat of Galaxies of Heroes and just all the sheer amount of characters you can put together into teams, and it's hands down the best mobile game that Star Wars has put out, so it belongs in the A tier to me. Star Wars Battlefront 2. If we were judging this shortly after it came out, it would be in the F tier, possibly the D tier. However, this game has resurrected itself, and I think it belongs, honestly, back in the A tier of games. I really, really like Battlefront 2. I play the crap out of it. The only major problem I have with it is it's hard to level up, especially your heroes and villains at this day and at this point, because everybody else is so leveled up that it's hard to get kills and win against them. That's my only problem with it right now. But the leveling and progression system is nice. The customization options are fantastic. I love playing the different game modes. As I told you guys before, I love the game mode, which I cannot for whatever reason remember right now, where you start off on the ground, you go to the capital ship, you can fight back. Games like that can be tense, fun situations that go for an hour long, and they're still enjoyable. I really enjoy what EA has turned Battlefront 2 into, from what was originally a unmitigated disaster of loot boxes into a very fun, very enjoyable Star Wars game. And I really hope when they do eventually decide to make Battlefront 2, that it's just as good, if not better, that they expand the characters that you can play as heroes, and they fix the progression system to work on a not pay-to-play system, because they kind of used it now based off of, star cards, which were originally loot box gains instead of experience gains. And now we finally, as we're about over an hour in, get to the last game, Star Wars Jedi Fallen Order. This bad boy goes in the S tier. This has been the best Star Wars game to come out since Battlefront 2. Hands down, the best single-player storyline game, I think, ever. I think this storyline might even be better than Knights of the Old Republic. I said the first sentence before looking at Knights of the Old Republic. It rivals it, if not better. It is better to me than Battlefront 2. I think it's up there with, if it's not number 4 for me, it's number 3. Possibly rivals number 2 with Knights of the Old Republic for the best Star Wars game out there. Cal Kestis is such a good character. The Second Sister, such a good character. The expansion of the universe with the Zepho, which kind of takes it's almost kind of like a spiritual successor to the Rakata in Knights of the Old Republic. And yeah, the trope at the end has been done before. The MacGuffin at the end that motivates the characters is kind of been there, done that for Star Wars. But I still really, the characters and the evolution of those characters and the story of Cal Kestis, where he's going from the tragedy of the Second Sister, the story of the Night Sister, I can't remember her name, when you go to Dathomir, is fantastic. The gameplay is incredible. I love it. It's basically a light version, a forgiving version of Dark Souls. And it's fun. It's fun. The platforming, the puzzle solving. This was where we finally looked at EA and we're like, thank you, EA. You did it. You finally made a great Star Wars game. It took you 4 attempts, but you did it. And then you needed to patch Battlefront 2 to make that a really good game, but you did it. Hats off. And with that, 52 Star Wars games tiered. As you can see, A has overflowed. So we're going to go ahead and I'm going to read these off for you guys again. We're going to go from the bottom to the top. F tier, Rebel Assault, Masters of Terraskasi, Obi-Wan, Clone Wars, Connect. E tier, Jedi Power Battles, Starfighter, and Jedi Starfighter. D tier, Rebel Assault 2, Super Bombad Racing, and The Force Unleashed 2. C tier, The Phantom Menace, Galaxies, and Battlefront, the remake. B tier, Mysteries of the Sith, Bounty Hunter, Episode 3, Empire at War, The Original Force Unleashed, and The Old Republic. A tier, Super Star Wars, Super Empire Strikes Back, Super Return of the Jedi. I can't remember the other games here, so we'll get to them eventually. Star Wars Episode 1 Racer, Rogue Squadron Rogue Leader, Rogue Squadron Rebel Strike, Star Wars Racer Revenge, Jedi Knight Jedi Academy. Those were two of the other ones. Dark Forces and Dark Forces 2 were also here, back here. The original Star Wars Battlefront, Knights of the Old Republic 2, Republic Commando, every single Lego Star Wars game, and Galaxy of Heroes and Battlefront 2. And really quick, let's see if I forgot anything up here. I did not. It's Dark Forces and Dark Forces 2. So we're good. We are is good here. It's good. Okay. And so finally for S tier, we've got Star Wars, the arcade game. The original arcade game, X-Wing, TIE Fighter, X-Wing versus TIE Fighter, X-Wing Alliance, Shadows of the Empire, Star Wars Trilogy Arcade, Star Wars Rogue Squadron, Star Wars Jedi Knight 2 Jedi Outcast, Star Wars Knights of the Old Republic, Star Wars Battlefront 2 the original, and Star Wars Jedi Fallen Order. That's my list. I am exhausted. I'm amazed I still have a voice. Thank you all so much for watching. Again, be sure to check out the original Star Wars tier list. I've also got a tier list if you're a video game fan of the Final Fantasy franchise, so we'll put a card up there. And if you're a wrestling fan of WrestleManias as well. I'm not quite sure what my next tier list is going to be. I'm thinking maybe the MCU. I'm going to see if I can get my fiance involved. But I've got some ideas. I'm thinking MCU, some Dragon Ball. If there are any other video game franchises you would like to hear me tier, anything from Star Wars, anything that's nerdy or nerd related, or you would be interested in seeing me tier, let me know in the comments down below. Thank you all so much. Again, do not forget to like, share, subscribe. You can also catch me on Twitch, where I live stream video games, sometimes including Battlefront 2, and you can actually go back and watch some clips from when I played through Jedi Fallen Order. And maybe eventually one day you'll see me play like Galaxy of Heroes, or maybe if I ever jump into the Old Republic, play that. Anyway, over on Twitch, L_Murpho, Monday, Wednesday, Friday nights, and select other days at random. Check me out. But that's gonna do it for me today, whatever time of day it is with this tier list video. I hope you all enjoyed it. Thank you all so much for watching, and until I see you again, peace, deuces, and I'll catch you later. Well, that just helped a lot. Did pretty well defending this go around. We're Dookuing good. Yeah, come on, Yoda. Come on, Master Yoda. Goodbye, Master Yoda. Was worth it. Was worth it. Was worth it to take out Yoda.